Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning on the Meta Cafe for your daily astrology, tarot, and human design report. With me is Jason Livanis in his Hugh Hefner-like smoking jacket. Oh, and he froze in a most interesting pose, too. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, beautiful lady. How are you today? Because it is a gorgeous day here. Let me show you out the window real quick. Can you see that?
Oh, it is beautiful.
Oh, and we're supposed
The
to
sun
have
is not well. The sun is just coming up here, and it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day. But it's a chilly morning. It's down to like 38, 39 degrees.
Wow. I have to tell you, I think we're going to get that picture-perfect autumn in New York thing where it's a slow, long autumn, and it's that in-between weather. I was outside until about 11 o'clock last night, just sitting in my car with a friend listening to Joni Mitchell, if anybody remembers her. Right?
I thought you were going to say Tom Petty.
No. I could never wrap I valued him as an artist, but I could never, because I sang opera, I couldn't ever sort of wrap my brain around the actual timbre. You know, it was sort of, and I'll take him over the Rusty Gates in the business. He's better than a lot of them, but I have a thing with language like you. I love words.
Yeah.
And Tom Petty isn't known for his elocution. Him and Dylan.
You get the important parts. The waiting is the hardest part.
Oh, you're so good. But anyway, I have had dear friends that literally, lit candles, and they were very, almost like when Donna Summer and Whitney Houston and Pavarotti died for me. I was like, oh, that one hurts, But anyway, I'm in a great mood today. Sex, drugs, and opera. How can you go wrong? The big three here. Let me move my screen. There now I can see you. Before you were, I love that color on you. Do you have good news for me today? Or let's plug shows first. Fuck it. Everybody see me tonight
let's plug shows first.
Talk Radio for my show. Hopefully finishing up the star card. Pretty card, lovely card. Very pure. The card's all about purity after the storm of the tower. That's tonight. I'm going to have my friend Rachel Parker on, who's going to give us a poem that was inspired by the star card. And if it's not, who cares? It's still going to be gorgeous.
Yes. Her poetry is always awe-inspiring.
And then we have Miss Janet Hickox with the Living Astrology. She's going to be on tomorrow night at the same time, 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. You are going
talking about astrology.
Yeah.
Amazing.
How nice. Are we continuing from last week? Or are you doing? Yeah.
I'm going to continue from last week, but then I'm going to go into. I don't know what I'm going to go into. Probably we'll talk about the full moon because it'll have happened at 11:40 my time tomorrow. Tomorrow morning.
I thought it was full last night, Janet. I was outside till 11. We didn't even need lights inside the car. I turned the car. It was just like bright. You could read by it.
Yeah, it was very bright last night. But it's technically full at 2:40 p.m. tomorrow, your time, and 11:40 a.m. tomorrow, my time. But of course, it looks very full right now. But you know what was most interesting is that this morning, for some god-awful reason, I was up at 4 a.m. and then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I was up and down, just kind of wandering the house, looking for something to do at 4 in the morning that isn't as disruptive as anything. And I decided to go back to bed. And when I did, I looked out my window and there's this very bright thing in the sky. And I'm like, oh, it's Saturn. I could see Saturn bright and shiny right in my room. And it was quite awe-inspiring, even though he's a little devil of a planet, or at least he devils us. And so in the mornings, I'm guessing right around the same time in the southern sky. So it'd be more like the southeastern, maybe a southwest, that direction. Look for the bright star. It looks like a star, but it's kind of golden colored. It's really beautiful. And then you can connect with Saturn's energy.
When?
In the evening. This was at 4 in the morning.
Is this a now thing that's just happening, or it's going to be gone? Or
No. It's going to be happening for a while. Yeah. In fact, almost the whole month of October, it's really only Saturn that you can see in the visible night sky. When I got up this morning, and it was when I actually got out of bed it was 6 o'clock, and I walked out my back door, and up in the southeast, I could see the planets Venus and Mars because they're both rising with the sun. So for a very short window in the early morning, you can see those two planets together.
Wow.
But if the sun gets too close to the horizon, though, its glare blocks you from being able to see Mars as easily. But you could still see Venus, and she's a beautiful sight too if you haven't seen her. She is gorgeous as the morning star. Just harder to see. Or harder to see Mars because he's lighter colored and red, but in the glare of the sun, you pretty much lose him. So that's what the stars are doing in the sky as far as we can see them. Now, this morning, the moon is gracing us at 26 degrees Pisces, which means the moon is conjunct our best friend Chiron, who is also at about 25, 26 degrees of Pisces. So when the moon conjuncts Chiron, we're often faced with our wounds, right? We are faced with, again, what?
Again? More facing the fear? Wow, we're not getting
Well, not so much the fear, the wound. The wound. What is your wound? And for the people who were born with Chiron in Pisces, and for those of you who did not have it in your chart in Pisces when you were born, you are experiencing it now. It is a crisis of faith, right? Having faith in a benevolent universe, having faith in yourself.
That makes sense.
Having faith that everything that's going on has its purpose and its proper timing. So the wound occurs, though, when we want to fight that, right? When we don't have faith that everything is going to turn out perfectly as it always does for us. And we get into fear. And tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about the full moon. And we're going to talk about the gate in human design that the full moon is sitting at, because I think it really catalyzes for me a lot of the energies that are occurring right now. And I think everybody will be quite interested to see what that's all about. So in the meantime, today, be cool, calm, and collected. Understand that moods are going to be a thing today. You may be up and you may be down. And that has a lot to do with what's going on up here as far as worrying, complaining, being a victim. Have faith that everything is working out to your benefit and all will be well. Thank you, God. Your turn, Jason.
Thanks. Hey,
follow
Janet,
that one.
I got questions.
Hey, Jason.
I got questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of time this morning. Very often, I think people see us, and I understand there are certain Argonauts and certain. I'm gonna have to get a name for your Pacific followers. I don't know. Starlings. Oh, I love the starlings. That
my least favorite bird of the fall, though. But
all right. Well, celestial beings, whatever words. I think sometimes they hear a lot of what you just said, and they come away going, "Well, is it like a good moon, or is it like a bad moon?" And I say that exactly that way because I often get it phrased like that, couched like that. Is this moon going to be a bad moon or like a good moon? And I understand that it's never usually of any one thing. But from now on, for our audience and stupidness here accounted for, the overall arching energy of this moon this moon you said is what? Is the moon is in Pisces? No, Pisces now, but it was a Gemini moon when it started or something?
No, it's been a Pisces moon since Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're in Pisces full on.
So basically,
until later in the
moon is full, it's going to be in
Pisces. Huh?
Again?
I said the moon is in Pisces until it switches from Pisces into Aries, preparing us for the full moon. And is it a good or a bad moon? Well, you know what? I can't answer that, Jason, because good or bad is in the eye of the beholder. What I might think is a positive experience, others may go, what in the bleep? is happening to me, all I can tell you is the quality of the moon is always going to be moody. And the quality of the moon in Pisces may also be disrupted by disillusionment, might also be disrupted by deception, but could also land on the side of compassion and creative energy that's extraordinary. So it has positives and it has negatives, but it's all going to be in how you interpret it or how you live out that energy.
And one last question.
Go ahead.
No, you finished.
When the moon is conjunct Chiron like it is today, the chances are that we are going to have to come face to face with a wound of some sort, right? Maybe maybe it's a crisis over something that you're facing in your life and you don't have the faith that it's going to turn out right for you. Maybe you're waiting to hear about a job, right? And
I would just think collectively this entire generation with all the shootings and everything else that's going on, people just don't, they're losing faith.
Yeah, so don't lose your faith. Keep your faith.
You're dead in the water without it.
Keep your faith. Everything is happening exactly as it's meant to happen. It couldn't be anything but that.
You know, sometimes that's cold comfort for a lot of people, and I get it, but absolutely true. Okay, so then one other stupid...
Well, look at it this way. Can you go back and change it?
No. So, right. So another question for us, let's see, astrology for dummies.
You're not a dummy.
Yes. I just shaved today. It feels fat.
At least my hair's all wet. I had to just toss it up. I didn't have time to dry it, nor did I really feel like getting the hairdryer out and drying my hair.
Okay, just let it down. It's okay.
If I let it down, you will see a mop.
When a moon begins its cycle,
mm-hmm.
And don't laugh at me, because I honestly don't know about the timing of things. Does the moon move? Okay. Does the moon move so fast that by the time it goes from its new moon into the full moon, does it travel through all of the signs?
Yes, pretty much.
So you can never say, oh, this moon is in Gemini, or this moon is in, because they're always going to be in Pisces at the end.
Well, no.
Do you understand what my logic is?
The moon does travel. The moon travels through all the 12 signs. Now, this is interesting because the full moon is in Aries. So by the time we get to the next full moon, it's going to be the moon to get through all 12 zodiac signs. But the pathway from the new moon to the full moon is only 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
That is not true.
You are lying.
No, I'm not lying. It's really about it's about 14 days. So okay. Is that 2 weeks? That's about 2 weeks, yeah.
Right. So what I understand is that I'll have to revisit that later when I can process it. Because some things that are not working in my head about that. But that's okay. So we know that this full moon is going to be in Pisces.
No. The full moon is in Aries. Today the moon is in Pisces.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fantabulous. Tell me, for the generation before my generation, which a lot of people probably are, the wound is is what again?
A crisis of faith.
Even in mine?
Yeah, you're still in the same. You and I are in the same generation.
Okay.
Yeah. So generation after us. Now that they're about ready to get hit with Chiron moving into their sign of Aries. And so the discussion will change fundamentally about the wound as we get moved on, because the wound in Aries is completely different than the one in Pisces. In Pisces, it's about a crisis of faith. But when we get to Aries, it's a crisis of independence. And so they're grappling with standing on their own 2 feet. Being dependent or overly independent. Sometimes that's a difficult path because it's their wound.
All righty. Let's see. Courage.
Interesting.
This is the card of courage. This is the card that says you got to show up. You got to face your fears. You got to face your emotions. You got to face shit head on. This is courage. There's no turning back. Look at the rings of fire around that head. This is half.
Yes. The Leo head with the swords on fire or wands on fire. Wands on fire.
Yes.
Torches.
So this is all about, it's a very simple message. They don't always have to be long and involved. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Obviously, if we're going to, look at this conjunct energy is making us look at some stuff, you're gonna need courage to get through it. That's all there's to it, And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to have faith.
So true, Jason. So true.
Look, eyeballs got so big.
Well, I mean, I did a human design talk yesterday afternoon or yesterday morning. Good God, the day was long yesterday. And one of the things we were talking about is the spleen, and the spleen being the center for all of the fears, really, that have both kept us alive throughout our primal years as a species, that is, not your primal years as an individual. But then also now paralyzes us and does not allow for us to move forward if we give into those fears. And really the only antidote there is for that is courage.
Interesting.
Anytime that we're facing doing something differently, behaving differently, trying something new, it all has to do with fear. Courage to overcome the fear of what might happen, what might not happen, etc.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I got for you.
Well, it sounds good to me. So it's all in all not a bad day. I think this is a good day, but I think we, in some cases, may have to face the wound in somewhere in our lives and do it with as much courage as possible. And you will be with me tomorrow morning when we talk about the full moon from a human design perspective. Guess what else? Tomorrow's the exact Venus-Mars conjunction. Could be a very interesting day.
Very nice.
We'll talk about it in the morning.
Mwah.
See you then. Mwah. Bye, everybody.
I'll see you in Zoom in about 5 minutes. I got to take care of some business.
Gotcha.
Bye
See you
now.
then. Bye.